we're talking about investing. Specifically, those that haven't started investing, that want to get started, that don't have a lot of money. So today what I want to share is my investing journey, how I got started. I also want to share the worst investment I made that lost me $5,000, and also the best investment that I made that cost me less than 10 bucks. We're going to share all that with you today. All right, so let's talk about investing. So, quick background on me. I was a finance major in school. That's what I majored in. But even though I was a finance major, I really didn't get investing. Believe it or not, they didn't tell us about mutual funds. They didn't tell us about 401ks, Roth IRAs, ETFs. We talked a little bit about it, but not a lot. Not enough to where once I graduated, I was comfortable going out and making my first stock purchase. But what ended up happening while I was in college, I got an internship at a local investment firm. So I had the internship turn into a part-time job, which ended up landing me what I am today, a financial planner. So I got my foot in the door, and that allowed me to talk to other brokers, talk to their assistants, and I started to learn a lot about investing. So that is how I made my first investment. I was talking with one of the financial advisors there, and she recommended 2 mutual funds that I got started with. Now, I was in college, so I didn't have a lot of money at the time. On top of the internship, I think I was working 20 to 30 hours a week at a mall job. So I had some money. I was in the Army National Guard, so I had that money coming in too. So I had enough to do something. So I started doing $50 a month into an individual investment account. So this wasn't a Roth IRA, this wasn't a traditional IRA, it was just an investment account. And I started putting in $50 a month, and then I would split that between these 2 stock mutual funds. Now here's the cool thing, or funny thing, or sad thing, however you want to look at it. I didn't know anything about mutual funds. I didn't know if these were good mutual funds. I had no clue. I was trusting this financial advisor that had been in the business longer than I had been, and I trusted their opinion, their recommendation, so that's what I bought. Hindsight being 2020, they weren't that good of mutual funds. They weren't horrible. They weren't that good. They weren't great. They were just okay. But I learned a valuable lesson. One of 2 things. One, you got to trust but verify. 2, to get started investing, you just kind of have to take that initial step and start doing something. So I was a little disgruntled, a little upset because, it wasn't the greatest mutual fund, but in a way I was thankful because had I not started, I would have been clueless, right? I would have kept talking about investing, talking about making my first investment, watching more YouTubes about investing and never actually making an investment. And it was only $50 a month, so it wasn't like it was a huge ton of money to where if it was a piece of crap investment, I lost all my money, I lost 50 bucks. Who cares, right? We blow $50 a day on junk instead of, making an investment. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest investment in the world, but I learned a lot through that experience. So once I started buying these mutual funds, I would get my statements. I would get the prospectus in the mail, which I actually read, not all of it, but some of it. And the prospectus is like a booklet that just talks about the investment and what they invest into and what their investing guidelines are. But you start getting all this material, all this information about your investments. So you're kind of, either you can just throw it in the trash, shred it, whatever you want to do, or you can start looking at it, and start researching it and start learning it. And that's what I did. So even though they were crappy investments, it was such a huge opportunity to learn about the stock market, about mutual funds, because then it started making me ask questions on, is this the best mutual fund? Are there other mutual funds that are out there? So I started doing more research, and I started realizing on my own that, there are better mutual funds out there that I could invest into. So that was my investment journey. So I started doing, as I said, $50 a month, which doesn't seem, it's not a lot of money. And a lot of people I talk to don't think that they can start investing until you have $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. And the fact is, that is an absolute lie. You can start investing as little as $50 a month, $25 a month, something to get going. There are a ton of online platforms. I have blog content that you can research. There are videos that you can watch. I don't want to spend that time today talking about the different options, but there are options out there that you can start investing for as little as $50 a month. And put that number into a compounding interest calculator and you'll be blown away on what that can grow to be. And if you get a chance, there's a video that I have on my YouTube channel. It's called How a 16-Year-Old Turned $500 into Over $500,000. So check out, I'll have a link in the description you can check out, but that will blow you away. And I'll say that title again, How I Showed a 16-Year-Old How He Could Turn $500 into Over $500,000. That will open your eyes into compounding interest. All right, so go check that video out. So that was my investing journey. That's how I started. From there, I started realizing that I needed to have a Roth IRA. Roth IRA is one of the greatest investment tools that you can have. We're talking about tax-free earnings, tax-free growth. If you like paying taxes to the government, then don't do the Roth IRA. Don't do any research. Just dismiss, delete this whole part of your brain. But if you want to screw the IRS and avoid paying huge amounts of taxes later on, then take advantage of a Roth IRA. So a Roth IRA is not an investment, it's an account type, and then you can put whatever investment you want. So if you want to buy a mutual fund, if you want to buy individual stocks, ETFs, whatever, you can put that inside a Roth IRA. And that was my next journey. So as I started to make a little bit more money, as I started understanding how I wanted to invest, I needed to invest for the future, the Roth IRA was the next thing for me that I want to put as much money as I could. As of right now, you can only put in $5,500 per year into the Roth. So that's how much I did as long as I could. And my wife did the exact same thing. So that was the Roth IRA. As far as how my investment journey has evolved, I still own mutual funds. I own some individual stocks. I talk about peer-to-peer lending on other videos. I have peer-to-peer lending with Lending Club and Prosper, ETFs. I have a few real estate notes. Don't have any real estate properties right now. And then I have my online investments, which is like my online properties. But that's a majority of how my accounts are set up. I've got 401k for my business. I've got Roth IRAs. I've got a joint account. We have some individual investment accounts. And that's pretty well how it's all laid out. So it is pretty well diversified. If you picture a pie, and I got all the different sectors in there. So that's how it has evolved. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a lot of money, you don't think that you can make a difference. And I just want to say it one more time. $50 a month, get started into something so that you can start learning, okay? All right, so now I mentioned at the beginning of this video, so that is my investment journey. What was the huge investment mistake that cost me $5,000? Man, it's kind of bringing back some old, some bad mojo here, bad vibes. But so as I was growing as a financial planner, you start talking to other advisors, you start talking to other people, and all these different investment opportunities come up. And there was this opportunity with a penny stock that I got turned on to by somebody else that was supposed to just blow up. I think this penny stock was trading at about $1.50 a share, somewhere in that range. And what I didn't know at the time was there is not a huge market for penny stocks. So if you're going to put a market order in, if you're going to put a buy order in to buy a penny stock, you want to put some sort of limit on it. So there's a thing called a market order, which basically is like you just say, hey, I want to buy 1,000 shares. And if the stock is $1.50 a share, in my mind, I thought that I was buying 1,000 shares at $1.50 as a market order. What I figured out really quickly is that in a penny stock, they can drive the price up really quick. So instead of buying 1,000 shares at $1.50, I don't recall exactly, but I bought like 100 shares at $1.50, 200 shares at $1.80, 300 shares at $2.20, so on and so forth, right? I could have put a limit on that price so they didn't go up above that $1.50. I was in the business for, I think, less than 2 years at this time, so I didn't know that. This was a very expensive lesson learned. So when I went to sell it, there wasn't a market because nobody wanted to pay, or they didn't want to pay over $2 for this stock that was only worth $1.50, $1.60 at the time. I was able to sell some of them, but a majority of them, I ended up just having to sell at a loss because it never got to that price. The penny stock never got to where it was supposed to get to. You know, it's supposed to go from $1.50 a share on to 20 bucks a share. That didn't happen. Can it happen? Yes, I've seen people make money off penny stocks. Didn't happen to this guy. So that was a $5,000, I mean, I can call it an investment, but it was a $5,000 loss, a $5,000 lesson learned. So I'm very passionate about making sure that people don't get caught up in the whole penny stock debacle. Can you make money on penny stocks? Sure, whatever. Yeah, you can. Are you going to make money on penny stocks? There's about a 9.7 chance out of 10, 9.7 times out of 10 that you're not going to do it. So don't get caught up in trying to make money on penny stocks. So that was a valuable lesson learned. The third thing I wanted to talk about was the best investment that I've made. An investment that will cost you less than $10. And I don't have like the one specific thing, but what the best investments I've made for myself are books. Books. I'm blown away how people don't read books. There are so many great books out there, so many things that I've learned through reading books that have changed my life, not just for my business, but for my family, for my marriage, for my personal life. And going back in my early years, I remember reading Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's still one of the best books that I think that any young person or old person should read. Now, I know Robert Kiyosaki's got some other stuff with his real estate and bankruptcies and all that. So I'm not saying trust his investment advice, but what I love about Rich Dad, Poor Dad was that it changed my mindset on how things could be. I learned about the cash flow quadrant and how going from an employee to an investor, and just learned about just that whole mindset shift. And, you know, in that book, I didn't walk away with a clear business idea or what my next thing was going to be. But what I did walk away was with feeling inspired. Like, wow, okay, there is a whole other world that I'm not familiar with that I want to be familiar with. So I began that journey of trying to figure out what that was. Now, it took me a lot of time and a lot of years to figure it out, and a lot of failures along that way to finally figure it out, you know, where I am today. But without reading that book and without having those failures, I wouldn't be here today. So that's why reading books and investing into reading books is by far one of the best investments you can make. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is one of the books that come to mind. Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. David Bach's Automatic Millionaire, another book that I read that really inspired me. Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. There are so many books. I wish I had my library here to show you all the books that I've read in my years. And there's so many other books I want to read. And I love it because my kids are always asking me, Dad, have you really read all those books? Because, you know, my oldest is 10. He's like, Dad, I hate reading. I hate homework. He'll figure it out one day. But I'm like, yeah, dude, like I've read all these books because these are all experiences that people have gone through before me and that I can learn from their mistakes. And it's also been a very, very valuable life lesson to teach my kids, you know, about reading and the importance of just getting education through other people's experience. Whether that be reading books, watching YouTube videos, whatever that is. But that is by far one of the best investments that I've made are the books that I've read, whether it be the $10 I spent and also the time I committed to finishing and reading that book. All right, as you can see, there are a lot of ways that you can get started with investing without a lot of money. If you're a beginner and want to get started, you can buy a book, educate yourself, or you can commit to doing $50 a month into some investment account, buying mutual funds, ETFs, something to get started. I'll have some links in the description of some blog posts we have that you can check out on some of our favorite online platforms that you can check out that don't require a huge startup, a huge amount of money to get started. So no more excuses. Stop wasting your time and my time about how I'm going to get started here soon. The soon is now. Get started now.